We're going to be going over some returning bosses in the Borderlands franchise. Few things to outline here is that this isn't every single returning boss in the Borderlands franchise, at least I don't think, but feel free to leave any I miss in the comment section down below, and if this video gets enough likes, I'll do an updated video covering those. Also, we're not going to be classing returning bosses as a boss that appears twice in the same game, like maybe 2 missions apart, it goes away and then comes back. We're talking about bosses that appear in one game and then in another game as a boss. And also, for any Borderlands 1 versions of bosses, I don't have the gameplay for that just because launching BL1 is insufferable, so sorry for that. So starting off, let's talk about the most basic one, probably the first boss technically that you're ever going to encounter returning wise, and that is Bonehead. Bonehead shows up in Borderlands 1. It's one of the first bosses you'll fight in the game. It's probably the boss you remember the most apart from Ninetoes and Sledge. And Bonehead doesn't just appear in Borderlands 1, because when you get to the Arid Nexus Badlands in Borderlands 2 and go to the same area where Bonehead is in BL1, you can find him this time as a Hyperion robot, now named Bonehead 2.0. Now in Borderlands 1, killing Bonehead will give you the Bone Shredder, and you can also get the same thing dropped to you in Borderlands 2 from Bonehead 2.0. Now continuing on the trend of Borderlands 1 appearances, let's talk about Mothra. So you can first find Mothra in the Like a Moth to a Flame mission in the Arid Badlands during Borderlands 1, and what's interesting is that in order to find Mothra in Borderlands 2, first of all, you're not actually going to be finding Mothra, I should state that. This is actually the son of Mothra in Borderlands 2, but I still wanted to put it on the list because it's basically the same thing. And in order to actually find Mothra, you're first going to have to go ahead and kill Bloodwing during the main story, and then when you come back to Wildlife Exploitation and go back to that boss fight area, now you're going to have the son of Mothra who is going to be flying around. And you can kill the son of Mothra to get the Skullmasher legendary sniper. Now moving on, let's talk about a pretty big boss both physically and also in the story. This is going to be the Destroyer. Now everybody knows that at the end of Borderlands 1 the vault is opened and the Destroyer comes out, or at least part of the Destroyer comes out. You kill it, you send it back into the vault, and that is it, or at least so you think. Well, interestingly enough, in Borderlands the pre-sequel we get the Tiny Destroyer during a side mission, and we also get the Destroyer's Eye. Now we're not going to play canon wars here on what's actually canon and what's not. The point is the Destroyer does return as a killable enemy with the Tiny Destroyer, and the Destroyer's Eye is also shown twice in pre-sequel, during the main story and also during the Claptastic Voyage DLC. And this isn't the only time we see the Destroyer come back. We also get it back in Borderlands 3, as I'm sure you all know. When Tyreen absorbs the Destroyer's power, she becomes Tyreen the Destroyer, and that is actually the Destroyer in the lore, so I am going to count it. Another one that I'm going to count is Chromax, who shows up first in Borderlands 1 in the General Nox DLC, and Chromax is an iconic boss. Everybody knows about Chromax. It was basically what kicked off the whole Invincible kick in Borderlands, and this is also where a lot of people get the nostalgia for farming Pearlescence as well. But Chromax would not just appear once, as in Borderlands 2, the son of Chromax, the Invincible, would show up in the Headhunter pack, which was released on Wham Island. And I gotta say, I think I prefer this version of Chromax way more. The fight feels a lot more interactive. It's way prettier looking compared to Borderlands 1. But I will say I don't enjoy the loot you get from the fight. It definitely feels like you're rewarded more for the Chromax fight in Borderlands 1. So yeah, I mean, that's the thing. But I still think it was a good way to pay homage to this boss. And hey, hopefully we get Chromax back one final time in Borderlands 4. But next, let's move on to Vermivorous. Vermivorous is first shown, as you all know, in Borderlands 2. As a Varkid, which comes from an evolution of Varkids. You just let them pod up a bunch until you get Vermi. Now I don't have that gameplay because I'm not going to sit around for 20 hours to get a Vermi spawn just for this video, so I apologize for that. But Vermivorous was a very, very iconic boss in Borderlands 2. Again, this whole Invincible kick, it feels like Vermivorous played a big role in that also. And Vermivorous was actually, believe it or not, some people don't know this, scheduled to come back in Borderlands 3 in the same exact exact form. We were supposed to get Vermi back as a pod-up boss, however, this was scrapped late in development, or early in development I think, I'm pretty sure it was late, but the point is it did not make it into Borderlands 3 unfortunately, and we would have to wait until the Director's Cut DLC to see Vermivorous come back to Borderlands. Now in this case, you have to go and face Hemovorous, and I believe it's Mayhem 6 and up if you fight Hemovorous on. You'll also get Vermi as part of the fight as well, and that was a cool way to bring Vermi back, and while it doesn't exactly play the same as it did in Borderlands 2, it is a cool way to bring Vermi back and tap on that nostalgia boner for a lot of people. Now next up, this is a really cool one that I want to talk about. It's Rackman from Borderlands 2, and Rackman also appears in Borderlands 3. The first time you face Rackman, you'll have to go to the fridge, and it's a pretty secret hidden away area. To get to Rackman, you'll go to the Rack Cave, and then they will appear, and it's aided by 3 Racks called, I think, like Bam, Pow, Whack, like I forget the exact names, it's on screen right now, but all of these cool Batman references, and killing Rackman will actually give you the Gunnerang, which is another reference to Batman, this being the Batarang, and this was yet again another cool Easter egg in Borderlands 2 on top of the endless amounts they already had, and it wouldn't be the last time we'd see Rackman. If you go to Carnivora in Borderlands 3, you'll see the Rack symbol in the sky, which isn't as secretive as the Borderlands 2 one, but going over there will show off Rackman yet again, and this time the fight is way cooler. There's so much more effort put into it. They really fleshed this out because he's like his own unique rare spawn that they want you to go and seek out. It's no longer just an obscure Easter egg anymore. And killing this Rackman will give you the Night Flyer, and the Night Flyer is a reference to how Batman doesn't kill people, because the Night Flyer is supposed to leave enemies on 1 HP, although this doesn't really work because of all of the other jank in Borderlands 3, but it's still a cool way to pay homage to Batman. It is just a shame though that the Easter egg weapon is kind of useless for what you'd actually want at endgame, but that's the Rackman Easter egg in BO2 and BO3. Now the final one we're going to talk about in this video is the Rack Hive. I thought I'd do this after Rackman just to keep this on the theme of racks. The Rack Hive is first in Borderlands 1. It is a really epic moment during the story, and it is a really cool looking boss. Don't talk about how its mouth looks like a vagina. And this is not the only time we see the Rack Hive, as in the Captain Scarlet DLC for Borderlands 2, right before you get to the Leviathan, you'll encounter Captain Scarlet riding on Roscoe, which is not the Rack Hive, but it is the Rack Hive. She just named it. And this is another way to show off the Rack Hive. I guess they just really wanted to put that in there for the hell of it. And honestly, I can't blame them. I mean, I think it's a really cool Easter egg. They even dress up the Rack Hive by putting some like hanging tarps from it and whatnot. So it's a cool way to bring back that enemy and change it up a little bit. And then after you kill the Rack Hive, Scarlet just jumps off and then teleports away. So yeah, I really do think that that's a cool way of paying homage to something from Borderlands 1, and it's kind of an Easter egg in itself as well. But guys, that's going to do it for this video. Again, I'm sure we've missed out on a ton of returning bosses, so leave more of them in the comment section down below, and we'll do an updated video going over those as well. These are really fun to do. I really enjoy doing them. If you guys have any other ideas you want to see us cover, then let me know also, and we'll get around to those. But thank you guys for watching. I really hope this was an enjoyable video for you. I'm sorry if my voice isn't like it usually is. I'm very, very sick right now, but I wanted to get this video out because I've been excited about making it for a little while now. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll check you in the next one.